got one more clip to show you, because one of my complaints during the whole campaign was, where is the conservative media? Where are the conservative media in the United States? Why aren't they reporting about how dangerous Mark Carney is, that he's worse than Justin Trudeau? Why aren't they reporting about his globalist connections? The fact he was a goodwill ambassador for the United Nations green energy. Why are they not reporting about his time with the WEF? Why are they not reporting about his stance on China? So finally, a little late, but Sean Hannity last night, prompted, of course, by the visit of Mark Carney to Washington, D.C., issues this startling report.
New far-left prime minister. He once threatened to seize capital from companies that do not advance Canada's climate radical agenda. Take a look.
We need to ultimately get to a point where every financial decision is taking climate change into account, the impact on the transition, and we actually drop the adjectives sustainable, because it's just what finance professionals do. On the risk side, we need the banks to look at the risks around the climate transition, which then flip to opportunities. On the opportunity side, it's really about looking for and at transition plans from all companies and backing those who are part of the solution and taking capital away from those who are part of the problem.
Now, in addition to using the climate crisis to impose government control over businesses, aka socialism, Carney is also a big fan of censorship. In fact, in April, he threatened America's social media platforms with a not-so-veiled shot at X. Take a look at this.
Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act.
Just to be clear, that there is no free speech in Canada. If you say or write something the government finds offensive or labels as misinformation, you can actually get arrested. Carney is offended by our freedom of speech. He seemingly wants to ban our social media platforms from his country and shut down all dissent. He wants to use the climate crisis hoax as an excuse to steal from our businesses and control their means of production inside of Canada. So the president is right to hold them accountable. Now, the great part of our friendship will absolutely continue. If needed, we will always defend.
In the American media recognizes that this guy might be potentially dangerous for the United States. Maybe his policies aren't in sync with ours. And it's a little late, but I was glad to see that. And I want to end on this, Mark, because one of the issues I have fought fiercely against was the Online Harms Act that Trudeau introduced and thankfully died with the last parliamentary session and in the election call. But of course, Mark Carney did obliquely mention during the campaign that he's going to resurrect this bill, because these are all the buzzwords. And like I said at the beginning, don't look at what he says, look at what he really means. And so when he talks about safety, he's talking about censorship. He's talking about making us safe from disinformation and misinformation. And that of course is everything the Online Harms Act bill was against. So do you think, I guess two-pronged question here to get you out of here. Do you think Mark Carney will reintroduce the Online Harms Act to it, and it's going to affect people like you and I if this thing goes through? And do you think Carney is going to cobble together a majority government with some NDP defectors, along with I think he's got Elizabeth May on his side now? But do you think he's going to cobble together a majority government in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. So the first part of your question is there's two things. They've wanted this online thing for quite some time. What bothers me is they wrap it around children. So when they wrap it around children, it makes it so most of the population is like, yeah, of course we want to protect children. But if you look behind it, we should just have something to protect children and then have the other one broken off. And that's what they did originally, is they said, well, we'll pass the children protection, but the other one we'll have to deal with later. So I just don't know how they're going to, and you could see it. He said it again. He said, we need to protect children online. And then he talks about misinformation with US social media giants. So yeah, I mean, that's what they want. It's going to be interesting to see if they're going to get away with it, because Canadians have woken up to this whole censorship thing. One thing that was very concerning to me is when you see mainstream media. So last week, mainstream media, right after the election, said that 70, I don't know what it was, two-thirds or 70 something percent of Canadians believe that misinformation and disinformation had affected the outcome of this election. I don't know if and it was a Nanos poll. I don't know if I trust that information, but what concerns me when I saw that, it's like they're trying to preemptively say that, you know what, we need to tackle misinformation and disinformation, and then they're going to offer us the solution, which is, you know, we're going to go after different you know, we're going to go after content creators, we're going to go after uniqueness. So yeah, it's something of concern. And the second part is, are we gonna have a majority government being propped up by NDP or Green? I think that we're gonna have this government. I don't know how they're gonna get it done. I'm sure that they're talking behind, you know, Mark Carney said that he's not gonna have a propped up from NDP. That's what he said. But in reality, what they could do is just have them, you know, come over. Like, so yeah, he's not saying, what he's saying is not dishonest, but what in reality is he can make a sweet deal for the missing pieces, which I believe he only needs 3, and then Elizabeth May, right? So he needs 4, right? With exactly. 4, so he needs 3 NDP and Elizabeth May, and then he could form a majority government. So instead of having, you know, being propped up, he doesn't want to get propped up. He wants them to come over and join the Liberal team, and then it's over. For 4 years, we're going to be stuck with this Liberal government. That's what he wants, and that's what he's going to be working towards, and that's what I'm afraid of. And it's possible, and it's unfortunate, and that's why this election was so important, and that's why I made content every single day for almost 2 years, trying to educate Canadians and say, you know, it's time for change, Canada. We're going down a very scary, authoritarian and, you know, censorship. We're going down the wrong path. We need freedom. That's what's going to make the vision of Canada, like our unity. We're not unified. I love the elbows up people, and I love the conservative people. I love everybody in this country. We're all divided because they have divided us. They make us fearful of each other. This is not Canada. Canada used to be unified where we all get along, and now we're all like, oh, this group, that group. There's every week there's protests. Like, this is not the Canada that we grew up in. And if you want to change where we're all unified, we have to vote for a conservative government, because the conservative government is the only, if you want conservative policies, you have to vote conservative. You can't hear anything from any of the other parties. They're going to say conservative policies, but they're not going to pull through on any of them. You have to vote conservative if you want conservative policies. And so one more thing about Doug Ford. Doug Ford is, I mean, I'm so disappointed in Doug Ford. He basically, what Doug Ford did is sabotage the conservative movement. And he listed out all of these things that he wanted. And Pierre Poilievre said, if I become prime minister, I'm going to do all of them. You're going to get the minerals rights. You're going to get everything that Doug Ford wanted. Pierre Poilievre's like, I'm going to do it for you. Conservatives know what's best for Canadians when it comes to economic prosperity. And then he goes to, so he doesn't support him. And then he goes and he goes to Mark Carney, and as if he's like, Mark Carney, this is what I wanted. Pierre Poilievre was going to do it. You're going to do it too, right? Like, he thinks that Mark Carney is going to say yes to all of the things that he wanted. But what Doug Ford doesn't understand, and what infuriates me, is if you want conservative policies, you have to vote conservative. Plain. It's simple. So what Doug Ford is doing is atrocious, and Canadians should be furious at that man.
Can't believe how many things you've said today that echo sentiments and statements that I've made, because I chronically call Doug Ford a faux conservative. He's a phony conservative. He completely sabotaged Pierre Poilievre in as many ways as he could. He was in Trudeau's pocket for years, and people forget who was the premier that was most on side with Justin Trudeau when he invoked the Emergencies Act. Doug Ford. Instantly, he was on X saying, "Good on you, Justin. You invoked the Emergencies Act against these people." Doug Ford has no business calling himself a conservative, capital C, small c. He's a progressive. It's the first part of his party's name. That's what he is. And he's disappointed me too, because it didn't begin this way with Doug Ford, with the Doug Ford Nation. It certainly has ended in a very dismal state of affairs. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us, because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.